Let me tell you something. Every time I hear "just got paid," I'm instantly back in those late 80s Fridays. Radios up loud, parents dressed to the nines, clubs packed, everybody smiling. That beat hit, and you already knew the weekend had officially started. Johnny Kemp, Keith Sweat, Teddy Riley. New Jack Swing was running the world. But here's the part that always messes with me. How does the man behind one of the happiest anthems in R&B history end up forgotten, struggling, and dying far away from the spotlight? How does a song that still plays every Friday night come from a life that ended so quietly? So what really happened to Johnny Kemp? This is the story the world forgot, but you won't. Let's go back to where it all began. Johnny Kemp was born on August 2nd, 1959 in Nassau, and growing up out there was a whole different rhythm of life. Sun up, sun down. Music everywhere. Calypso, reggae, soul drifting through open windows. And in a house with 9 siblings, Johnny learned real early how to be heard, or get lost in the noise. Church was where it started. That's usually how it goes. Sunday mornings, wooden pews, harmonies bouncing off the walls. People noticed his voice quick, not just loud, but smooth, confident, like he already knew how to command a room. Before he was even a teenager, Johnny was already performing in local clubs and hotels, singing for tourists twice his age. While most kids were worried about homework, Johnny was worried about hitting notes. By his early teens, he joined a group called Kinky Fox, and this wasn't no garage band situation. These dudes were working, night after night, cruise ships, resorts, long sets, long hours. And that's where Johnny really learned the game. How to hold an audience, how to survive the stage, how to smile even when you're tired. That kind of grind ages you fast. But the Bahamas could only take him so far. Johnny knew it. If you wanted real industry attention, real record deals, you had to go where the labels were. So like so many before him, he packed up his dreams and headed to New York City. No safety net, no guarantees, just talent and hunger. And look, New York in the late 70s and early 80s wasn't sweet. It was cold, competitive. Everybody could sing. Everybody was trying to make it. But Johnny had something different. That island confidence, that joyful energy. He wasn't trying to sound like everybody else. He sounded like himself. And that right there, that's what was about to change his life. When Johnny Kemp landed in New York, it didn't take long for people to realize he wasn't just another dude with a decent voice. Labels were hunting for the next sound, the next vibe, the next face that could bridge street energy with radio-friendly records. And Johnny, he fit right in that pocket. He eventually signed with Columbia Records, which at the time was pushing hard to stay relevant in black music. In 1986, Johnny dropped his self-titled debut album, Johnny Kemp. It didn't explode overnight, but it made noise around the way. Records like Just Another Lover showed he could sing with emotion, with swagger, with control. He wasn't chasing trends, he was building something steady. But the late 80s music scene was ruthless. If you didn't have a smash, you could disappear real quick. And that's when fate stepped in. Behind the scenes, producer Teddy Riley was changing the entire sound of R&B. Hard drums, swinging beats, hip-hop attitude with smooth vocals. That New Jack Swing wave was coming fast, and one record, just one, could change your whole life. That record was Just Got Paid. The crazy part, the song wasn't even meant for Johnny Kemp at first. It was written by Teddy Riley and Keith Sweat, originally intended for Keith or his circle. But timing is everything in this business. Albums get locked, track lists get finalized, songs get passed around like poker chips. And when Johnny got his hands on it, something clicked. See, Just Got Paid didn't sound like theory to Johnny. It sounded like real life. Working all week, waiting on Friday, getting dressed, hitting the club, feeling free for a few hours. Johnny didn't just sing the song, he lived it. That joy in his voice, that wasn't acting. That was him. When the song dropped in 1988, it took off immediately. #1 on the Billboard R&B chart, top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Clubs, house parties, cookouts, everywhere. If it was Friday night, Just Got Paid was playing. DJs ran it back twice. People didn't sit down when it came on. That song became a ritual, a celebration, a release. Johnny Kemp became the face of that moment. Sharp suits, high-top fades, that confident smile. MTV rotation, late-night shows, tours. For a brief window, he was exactly where every artist dreams of being, on top, visible, validated. But here's the part people don't talk about enough. When you have a hit that big, the industry doesn't ask, how can we help you grow? They ask, can you do it again? And that pressure, it's heavy. Johnny followed up with more records, more performances, more appearances. But lightning didn't strike twice the same way. Radio started moving on. New sounds, new faces, younger artists. New Jack Swing itself started shifting. What was once fresh became crowded, and slowly, quietly, the spotlight began to drift. Johnny Kemp was still working, still touring, still singing that song people loved. But the checks weren't the same. The attention wasn't the same. The industry had already started looking for the next anthem, the next voice, the next Friday night feeling. And Johnny, he was left carrying the weight of a classic that refused to let him move on. After the smoke cleared and the charts stopped calling, Johnny Kemp found himself in a place a lot of artists never talk about, but many end up in. The hit was still alive, the song was still ringing off, but the industry, it had already moved on. By the early 90s, New Jack Swing was overcrowded. Labels wanted younger faces, fresher looks, and artists who could chase trends instead of defining them. Johnny dropped more music, but radio wasn't checking for it the same way. No big marketing push, no heavy rotation. Just silence where the hype used to be. So Johnny did what real performers do. He kept working. He toured overseas, Caribbean shows, Europe, casino gigs, cruise ships, places where Just Got Paid still made people lose their minds the moment that beat dropped. On stage, he was still that guy, still smiling, still giving the crowd what they came for. But off stage, the reality was different. The checks weren't consistent. The attention faded. And when you're known for one legendary song, the industry doesn't see your growth. They see your past. Promoters want the hit. Fans want the memory. Nobody asks how you're really doing, and that messes with you. Johnny wasn't known for scandals. No wild arrests, no tabloid drama. His struggle was quieter than that. It was the slow grind of staying relevant without support, of being celebrated for one moment while feeling invisible the rest of the time. You gotta understand, imagine giving the world one of its happiest anthems and still having to hustle just to stay afloat. That kind of pressure don't scream, it whispers. And while the world kept partying to his song every Friday night, Johnny Kemp was living a life that felt further and further away from the spotlight that once promised forever. Which makes what happened next hit even harder. In April 2015, Johnny Kemp was doing what he had done for most of his adult life, traveling for music. He was in Montego Bay, Jamaica, booked for a performance. Nothing unusual, no headlines, no warning signs splashed across the internet, just another stop on the road. But on April 16, 2015, the news came out of nowhere. Johnny Kemp was found dead on the beach. According to official reports, he had fallen from a bridge near the shoreline. Authorities ruled the death an accident, stating there were no signs of foul play. No robbery, no struggle, just a tragic fall in the early hours of the morning. And just like that, he was gone. He was 55 years old. For fans, the news didn't sit right, not because there was evidence of murder, but because of how sudden and quiet it all felt. No eyewitnesses stepping forward, No clear explanation of why he was near the bridge at that hour. Just a conclusion that left more silence than answers. And that's usually how it goes with artists like Johnny Kemp. When you're no longer in the spotlight, your final chapter doesn't come with flashing cameras or breaking news alerts. It slips through the cracks, a short article, a quick mention, then the world keeps moving. What made it hit harder was the contrast. This was the same man whose voice still echoed through clubs every Friday night. The same man tied to laughter, dancing, and payday joy. Yet his own ending came far away from home, far away from family, and far away from the industry that once celebrated him. No grand farewell, no final performance, just a quiet exit. And sometimes that's the most heartbreaking part. Not the mystery, not the fall, but how fast the world forgets to ask how someone was really doing before it happened. When news of Johnny Kemp's death finally reached the States, the reaction wasn't loud, but it was deep. Artists, DJs, and fans from the late 80s era all said the same thing. Man, not Johnny. For a lot of people, it felt like losing a piece of their youth. There wasn't a massive industry tribute, no televised memorial, and that alone said a lot. Because this is how the music business works. Once the spotlight moves, it rarely looks back. But outside the industry bubble, Johnny's impact was undeniable. DJs across the country ran Just Got Paid back-to-back that weekend. Radio stations slid it into throwback sets. Social media filled with stories of first paychecks, first parties, first Fridays out. That song became bigger than Johnny Kemp the man. It turned into a ritual, a feeling, a reminder of when life felt lighter, when the weekend meant something. And here's the real legacy. Just Got Paid never aged. New generations still move to it. It still gets sampled, still gets mixed, still gets shouted out when that beat drops and the room comes alive. That's immortality most artists never touch. Johnny Kemp may not have had a long chart run, but he gave the culture one perfect moment. One song that refuses to die. One soundtrack to joy. And maybe that's the bittersweet truth of his story. He didn't leave behind a catalog full of hits. He left behind a memory the world keeps replaying. At the end of the day, Johnny Kemp's story is one a lot of people don't like to talk about, but need to hear. He gave the world joy, pure joy. A song that made working-class people feel rich for a night. A voice that turned Friday into a celebration. And yet, behind that smile was a man carrying the weight of a moment he could never outrun. Johnny Kemp passed away at 55 years old, far from home, far from the spotlight that once promised forever. His life reminds us that fame doesn't equal security, and one hit doesn't guarantee peace. The music lives on, but the man deserves to be remembered too. So next time Just Got Paid comes on, don't just dance. Take a second. Remember the voice. Remember the man. His story deserves to be heard. And now you know it.